Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video. This time is more of a different tone, just fresh off the interview with Yadi Gang TV. Yadi, if you're watching, appreciate your time. But we have more pressing matters to talk about, and is the future of Misfits boxing. Not influencer boxing, Misfits boxing. Because as of recent events, KSI got sick, pulled out, and the 22 card got postponed from April to May, and it's been quite a grey dark time for influencer boxing, especially for Misfits boxing. Now, the one thing that I don't think many have talked about is the scary truth of influencer boxing, and that is who is next in line when KSI calls it a day. Because if I'm being honest, KSI looks like he's lost motivation for the sport, lost motivation for boxing, and to be honest, I don't really mind. Because KSI's got Sidemen, Prime, BGT, many different projects he has outside of boxing. So when all these other projects are going well, with Sidemen, with Inside, BGT, positive reception, new music potentially getting positive reception, when there's an era in your life that you're struggling with, why would you keep feeding your energy into it? You train, no one likes to train, but you do it for the fight night. But if you train and you get nothing out of it, at the end of the day, what is the point? I mean, KSI doesn't do boxing for the money. He has the money. So to continue boxing at this moment in time with all the setbacks he's had, with injuries, pullouts, etc. For me, if I was KSI, I understand I would lose motivation. I understand I probably would put fighting off, because I have other ventures that are profiting me monetary wise, but also life wise. Qatar, charity matches, mainstream media, getting the Brits, BGT, like Netflix, like so many more ventures compared to boxing, where he's dealt with pullouts, injuries, and just a lot of negative things that people don't want to experience within the boxing scene. So I touch on the scary truth is because who is next in line to replace KSI? Because Misfits' main idea is to build fighters, build influencers to become bigger stars. That's the whole premise of Misfits. And with that, building them on, they can turn into pay-per-view stars. And in order for the business to generate more revenue, because Misfits is a business, they need money, they need revenue to fund the smaller cards. They need these pay-per-views to do well to fund these smaller events. So when KSI pulled out, you would think they could easily find a replacement. But the truth of the matter is, there's no one like KSI. There's no one who can bring in the same similar audience like a KSI. So they said, Salt Pappies, Slim Gib, but they are not KSI level. They're up there. Do not get me wrong, 100%, but they are not in the realm of the KSIs, the Logan Pauls, the Jake Pauls, that need to sell a massive amount of pay-per-views in order for the company to gain a profit. Because without KSI, fans don't really care. Like for that March 29th event, I bet everyone in that stadium who bought a ticket, number one reason why they showed up was because of KSI. Not because of Darren Till, not because of Foxy G, not because of Wild Sharks, because of KSI. So when KSI pulled out, they had to cancel the event. People were upset, but they had to cancel the event because everyone in that stadium's main priority was to see KSI. And if KSI was a no-show, you would feel robbed either way, because you spent that money to see KSI, but you're not getting him. You're getting, potentially a Darren Till. And people don't want that. People want to, essentially get their money's worth. And this also resulted with the April postpone, because I believe, this is what my theory and opinion, I reckon they would have used money or profit generated from the KSI event to help fund these non-pay-per-views, whether that be in Derby, potentially in America, Q2 this year, we don't know. Now I'm going to pull up this tweet and I'll tell you what it reads. It's by Gio. Scary question. Without KSI, who is the next active pay-per-view star that Misfits has? And that got me thinking. In my opinion, and I responded to this, nobody. No one. No one's at the level of KSI. The closest person I think who's at that sort of level, but probably below, but who is probably Danny Aaron. Obviously, the Dublin card was initially meant to be a 2v1 KSI against Slim and Andy Taylor. KSI pulled out. But if you looked at that card, other than Danny, no one would have been able to fill that main event spot. Yes, they had the concert, so the fans still got to see KSI, but I bet a decent chunk of the fans in attendance actually wouldn't have minded to watch Danny Aaron, because Danny Aaron's is massive in the UK, millions of followers, very well known within the UK, England, Ireland, those sort of areas. So with Danny Aaron's being the new main event, it wasn't a total loss. Like, yes, he's not KSI, but he's at this moment in time, he's definitely up there. And I think other than him, in terms of influencers within the scene who have boxed, I do not think anyone could have matched that, because they just don't have the following. And that's the whole ideology of revenue, because Misfits knew Danny Aaron still has a very, very big active following. So he knows people will still be there. Be like, they still get KSI, they still get the music, but they still get a half decent name for the main event, as opposed to, let's say, for example, Darren Till was on that card. I think more people would have preferred Danny Aaron as opposed to Darren Till, because yes, Darren Till, big name in UFC, but we're talking about influencer boxing. Not really. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, like, Danny won't be able to carry the Misfits torch because recent events, he literally has a child, he has other priorities in his life right now, and he doesn't need to box, he has other ventures, just like KSI. So he's not going to be, carrying Misfits on his back. He's probably not going to be boxing anytime soon. So I don't think you can really count him as, like, someone active. So in terms of active people, nobody. That's the harsh truth, and I think that's a very scary, scary truth, because we're getting found out now. Because yes, Misfits started in 2022, but you have hoped that Misfits would have developed at least maybe 1 or 2 stars, just in case for whatever reason KSI would have pull out, or KSI would have get injured. That was the whole point. They could potentially step in and step up to be able to still garner the same similar crowd and keep the pay-per-view alive. But unfortunately, as seen, it hasn't not been the case. And this is what it comes to, because I saw some people say Salt Pappy, Darren Till, AT, Chase Moore as people next in line. But that's the difference between Misfits pay-per-view stars and actual pay-per-view stars. Actual pay-per-view stars can sell anything. KSI is a pay-per-view star. Logan Paul's a pay-per-view star. Danny Aaron's, I'll give it to him, to an extent, in the UK, pay-per-view star. Jake Paul, pay-per-view star. Whereas your Salt Pappies, your Chase Moores, Anthony Taylors, massive in their own right, 100%. In terms of what they've done in their online careers, hats off to them. But they are only bound as Misfits pay-per-view stars. They're not actual pay-per-view stars, because within the Misfits scene, not many people are purely invested in the scene. So what I mean by that is, obviously people invested in the scene, like me, probably you guys watching, would love to see a Salt Pappy main event, would love to see Anthony Taylor main event. We wouldn't mind that, because we know how big they are within the Misfits scene. But if you look at the broader market, they are not pay-per-view stars. And there's very few influencers who are actual pay-per-view stars, and that is the problem. Because at this moment in time, KSI and Jake Paul are the only influencer pay-per-view stars. Logan, done with boxing. You could say Gibb, but he doesn't even post anymore. Deji doesn't look like he's gonna box anytime soon. Danny doesn't look like he's gonna box anytime soon. And you've got people like Ethan and Joe who are meant to box, but I don't think Weller's gonna box anytime soon. I don't think Ethan's gonna box anytime soon. So if you're looking at the influencer boxing scene, especially the Misfits boxing scene, there is a shortage of actual pay-per-view stars other than KSI. People can argue HS Tiki Toki. Yes, he's big in his own right, but I think he needs to be more active in order to establish himself within the influencer boxing scene first, and then I think he'll be able to become more mainstream, break that bracket from a Misfits pay-per-view star into an actual pay-per-view star. But he's inactive, doesn't look like he's trading that much, and you can't blame him. He probably has other ventures, he's got money, he's traveling the world, like, his heart not in boxing. There's very few influencers. There's very, very, very few influencers whose heart is in boxing, but they're also a pay-per-view star. And that's the scary truth for Misfits, because they have to have pay-per-views, but they can't always rely on KSI. KSI is not getting younger, he's 30, 32, 31, I'm not too sure. He's in his 30s, So you can't always rely on KSI. All right, I want a decent number of pay-per-views, like 3 or 4. You can't rely on KSI to be in all 4, maybe 1 or 2. But the rest of the pay-per-views, who are you gonna call? And that's scary, but also, I don't know. It's a very gray area at this moment in time. We're gonna conclude the video now. What are my thoughts about the future of Misfits boxing? It's at the end of the day, it's those infancy phase. I think people need to realize it's only been in operation for 2 years. I mean, 2.5 now, close to 3. Like, the UFC took what? I'm not too sure, but a very long time before it actually started gaining attraction. With Misfits, there's always going to be ups and downs. So I believe this period of time that we're in is a down period. I mean, that's normal for every company. I mean, that's normal for everyone in life, athletes, your studies, literally most endeavors in life. There's always up periods, but there's always down periods. It's inevitable. And this moment in time, Misfits is in a down period. But it's not about being sad or being like, influencer boxing is dead, this and that. It's about reflection and planning in order to make sure, okay, we're in this position. How do we make sure we don't get in this position again? Because not everything's perfect. Not everything is, hunky-dory. Not everything's sunshine and rainbows. You know what I mean? Like, not everything can go your way. And, things have not gone in Misfits' way during this current moment in time. But in the future, I genuinely believe Misfits will definitely bounce back. Man Taylor works hard. They've got a good team behind them, and I think there's definitely more and more influencers who are getting more interested into the Misfits stuff. Like, for example, Ginger Mashtag Brady, talking about, potentially boxing. That could be the next pay-per-view. Angry Ginger Mashtag Manchester. It will sell out 100%. And yes, they won't be carrying influencer boxing, but that will give a new breath of excitement. Hopefully, like a new breath of fresh air, See Ginge and Mashtag, these two big content creators from the UK in the ring. It will bring back that old essence. And hopefully, I think should happen. I think that's like the next best thing if KSI is not fighting. I'm thinking, at the moment in time, what big fight in the UK would work? Ginge and Mashtag Brady. 100%. Put that in. And that will definitely sell. That will definitely sell. And definitely put Misfits back, because people will be paying attention, because these two are global content creators, and they'll be able to bring a very, very big crowd in the stadium as well as outside the stadium, people buying the pay-per-views, etc. So we just have to wait and see, because we don't know what the future holds. We just have to hope that Mams and the team are working through this, and hopefully Misfits will find its feet and continue putting on great events for us as well as the fans. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share your thoughts, like, subscribe, and I'll see you when you're older. Don't go changing. Bye bye.